back to Fireside Giants, a day following the Giants versus Houston Texans Week 2 preseason matchup. Now, of course, reflecting on it 24 hours later, not even, you kind of look back at some of the things that happened, take a look at some of the films, some of the kind of breakdowns and whatnot of these specific individual players. Going to give you some updates, some injury issues, obviously, looking at that crazy run by Elijah Chapman, UDFA this year. And listen, this is a guy that's worked his way onto this roster. Finally, the Giants getting some value, finding some key pieces in the late round, and even undrafted players like Chapman. So we'll talk about him, his role, kind of the depth at DT right now, but also linebacker core obviously beaten up right now. Micah McFadden was carted off with a hip injury yesterday. That leaves us really thin at linebacker. We really don't have any other bodies. Deontay Johnson is currently injured, and Matthew Adams picked up an injury as well. I think a groin issue in the middle of that game. So, right now, if you're the Giants, thinking about the depth, I want to talk about the secondary a little bit, but most of all, reflecting on what we discussed in the post-game recap yesterday, Daniel Jones' performance. Obviously the mental lapses are not something that you really want to see. He's a little bit rusty. We've seen those mental issues pop up in the past. Really every season he's been in the NFL. We're in year 6. You can't be making those types of decisions. I get wanting to be aggressive. I get wanting to get the ball out. But you can't just loft it up to a guy that's, receiver that's not really looking at you and a DB on his back waiting for you to make a mistake. I mean, he's reading the eyes of Daniel Jones. We've seen defensive backs do this throughout his career. Watch his eyes. Usually, wherever he's staring, just go run towards that space because the ball is going to be there for an opportunity. We need to see better from Daniel Jones, need to see him progress, take a big step forward, shake off this bad performance. There's certainly a world where he bounces back and has a good regular season. We've seen him be successful in the past, but, this is the year. I think we can all acknowledge the offensive line looks a lot better. We have Malik Neighbors now. You got an elite wide receiver 1 for him. There's no more excuses, guys. The mistakes, the issues. I get he has got to shake off the rust, but how long does he get? The regular season rolls around. We get a couple weeks into the season. If he's still struggling, I think it's time to call it quits. I think it's time to turn the page. I'm going to give him a little bit of slack this year. The first 3-4 games, we got to see so much better. The guy, look, he's making $40+ million a year. We got to see better. We have to see our money's worth from this player. We can't be waiting. Oh, he's just turning a corner. Oh, he's shaking off the rust. Oh, bad this, bad. So at some point, just got to play better. And a lot of people reference 2022 as, the year we make the playoffs and, wins a playoff game. Yes, we saw better versions of DJ. We've seen good versions of him, but at this point in time, it's now or never. There's no next year. There's no week 8, week 9 where he's got to prove it. It's now or never for him. There's a reason the Giants have not touched his contract. There's a reason that they have refused to extend or create void years or move money in the future. They know that if he does not perform well this year at a very high level, he's gone. It's that simple. So if you're a fan of DJ, it's now or never. There's no other, let's shake off the rust. It is, you got to step up now. We can't afford to go, lose the first, 2 or 3 games. And, Vikings are a winnable, a beatable team with, JJ McCarthy's injury. So just wanted to throw that out there. It's got to happen now. There's no more time to waste. I don't care about the injury. Guess he's bouncing back, but this is the season. There is no more time. Hopefully we'll see better performance. I just want to win some freaking games as a Giants fan. I imagine most of you guys just want to win freaking games. I want to wake up on Monday and be happy for once. That's all I really ask. It's not that much of an ask, but apparently I guess it is. But reflecting on some other things, the secondary, Trey Herndon got beat up a lot. Gave up a couple completions. Veteran there has experience in the slot and on the boundary. At the end of the day, this secondary is not good. It is very, very, very questionable at this time. Why? Well, Cordell Flott, we just don't know what he is. He's injured. Has a quad injury, has not played in the first 2 preseason games. He is missing essential experience and opportunities to prove his worth. Right now, I am not looking at Flott as a starter. If you are, I haven't seen it. I don't know who is. Looking at Nick McLeod, he's promising, he's okay, but are we really going to trust him as a CB2? I don't necessarily know. I don't trust Nick McLeod. He's a competent backup, but as a starter, you're in trouble. Deonte Banks got beat up a couple times against Nico Collins. I think, he is our CB1. That's where the Giants are going with this position. So, Banks hopefully has a great year. CB2, they got to start thinking about free agents, man. They got to start thinking about free agents right now. And Stephon Gilmore signs a 1-year, $10 million deal this morning with the Minnesota Vikings, who has a pretty bad secondary too, had a couple injuries. So Giants are in a similar spot. They're waiting to see what happens here. Maybe claim somebody off of the waiver wire. But again, you're getting backups off the waiver wire. You're not really getting starting level talent a lot of times. So you got to get lucky, like a Jason Pinnock lucky. And even then, you just, it took them a year to get things kind of going. So free agency, Xavier Howard, and then of course you have guys like J.C. Jackson or Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson obviously played with the Giants last couple seasons, would be a perfect fit just because he knows the New York media, he knows what to expect. This defensive scheme is a lot more simplified than Wink Martindale's. Whoever they do sign will kind of slot right back in. So we'll see what happens, but Adoree Jackson does seem like a natural fit. I know a lot of people rush into the comments, no, he stinks, he sucks. Guys, we're picking up like backups off, like, starting guys that are waiting in free agency. Good players are not sitting in free agency right now. Like, you're going after guys that are going to be kind of problematic. You're going after guys that are not like top of the cream of the crop. You're getting mid to lower barrel guys at this point. Xavier Howard, he's had his issues too, and he's going to be a little bit more expensive. They're waiting for injuries to drive up their price tag. Like, think about it. They're trying to manipulate the market to drive up their price tag because they are not as valuable, to teams that have healthy secondaries, right? So them waiting for injuries, for issues to capitalize on financial opportunities does not indicate they're in a position of leverage yet. They're trying to force teams like the Giants to overpay. They're trying to force teams like the Minnesota Vikings to give Stephon Gilmore $10 million on a 1-year deal, who got shredded last year when Trayvon Diggs went down with the Dallas Cowboys. So, you're looking at the situation at hand. Whether it's Xavier Howard, whether it's J.C. Jackson, whether it's Adoree Jackson, you're not getting a great player. You're getting a competent player with experience. That's what the Giants really need right now. Just somebody with freaking NFL experience under their belt. So bringing back Adoree Jackson, yes, a lot of people will be like, no, screw that. I get it, but what other choice do we have? Xavier Howard's going to be more expensive. We have $10 million in cap space. The Giants don't want to manipulate any more contracts. They don't want to restructure any more contracts. You have $10 million. That's more than enough to go into the season. You have to go get one of those guys at some point, or you pray to God you get someone decent in waiver claims when roster cuts happen in a couple weeks here, a couple days really. So that's kind of what we're facing right now. Secondary needs substantial help. Andrew Phillips did not play yesterday. Trey Herndon gets to start in the slot. Darnay Holmes obviously back there, but he's not very good in coverage. It's going to be problematic, guys. Like, the secondary is going to get shredded against teams with good passing games. And I think we saw a glimpse of that yesterday with CJ Stroud just picking us apart. The run defense looked fine. Pass rush, had its moments, but this secondary is not going to be able to hold up unless you get some more experienced bodies in there that can at least provide competency. Those guys, like Adoree Jackson, is better than Cordell Flott right now. Adoree Jackson is better than Nick McLeod. I think that should be a pretty easy take to make. Maybe not, but I think just their experience, he's only 20 years old, Adoree. Like, I'm not advocating for him, but I'm saying that he is a reasonable option because there really isn't that many options. It's him or Xavier Howard. Take your pick. Howard's fine, but I think he went through some legal troubles recently. I don't know why he's a free agent. He could just be waiting for a bigger payday. The Giants may not be able to afford him. So you got to take these things into account here. The options are slim, far and few in between. Now linebacker. We're shredded at linebacker too. Micah McFadden gets carted off the field with a hip injury. LB2, starting linebacker. Like, that's a huge blow to our defense. We don't know the severity of this injury just yet, but we don't know how long he's going to be out. We hope he rebounds quickly, so prayers up to him. We desperately need him to stay healthy because the rest of the depth is shredded too. Deontay Johnson is in a walking boot this week. He probably won't be ready for the start of the season. Matthew Adams, another backup, left with a groin injury. Like, it's Bobby Okereke, and then who's up next? Isaiah Simmons? That's who we have. Kind of a tough situation if you're the Giants. Your linebacker depth is now completely destroyed. Anthony and I had talked about a couple of decent linebackers in the draft that they could have went with, but they kind of stuck with what they have, and then some undrafted free agents. They still have Darian Beavers. That's a guy that may be next up in line, so we'll see how he kind of progresses there. But definitely some injuries happening. Things I am positive about, and I was a little pessimistic start to this episode. The offensive line, loved the performance of the offensive line. The pockets that Daniel Jones had were excellent. The deep balls, the chances he had excellent time in the pocket. Like, he's got, we hope he keeps progressing here and getting better, but the line, this is the best he's ever seen, right? This is the best protection he's ever seen, at least in that preseason game. I have never seen, since he's been a quarterback for the Giants, pass protection and a unit working in unison like that. So if he can improve with that type of protection, then I think it's time, we start going in the direction of calling it quits, at least with DJ long term. I think most people are already there after yesterday, but, for those that are still hanging on by a thread, it's now or never. Like, we have this full, comprehensive package of WR1, decent offensive line performance, running back by committee. You have good, decent enough tight ends. Theo Johnson is a solid player with upside. You still got Wandale, Darius Slade, and Jalen Hyatt. They have enough weapons. They have clearly decent enough protection. So we got to see better from DJ. Hopefully we will. But offensive line looks solid. Jermaine Alumo at right tackle, as I've been saying for months now, my starting right tackle has been since the day we signed him. Evan Neal still working his way back. John Michael Schmitz got the start at center, looks solid. I think Schlotterman went in there. Stinney went in there at left guard. They still don't have John Runyon, so they look pretty competent considering they don't have one of their top free agent signings. Actually, their top offensive line free agent acquisition, 3 years, $30 million for John Runyon. Solid left guard, above average pass protecting left guard. That's a guy you want in there every day. And the Giants waiting for him to get healthy, a little shoulder injury, banged up this past week. So hopefully he returns within the next couple of days and works into the equation, in practice at least, getting back into the swing of things. But Carmen Bracillo clearly working wonders already with this unit. They look like a legitimate offensive line. Now, the sample is very small and mostly backups for the Texans in the pass rush situation. They had Daniel Hunter in there, but the rest of their guys, Will Anderson, were not playing, so they weren't getting the top guns at a lot of spots. But, just the fact that the Giants were able to communicate, you saw them transitioning, it just looked so much better. Even if they struggle a bit, last year was a disaster. Like, it can't get any worse than that. So, and I've said this many times, mistakes breed injury-prone players. Mistakes make injuries more probable. So the more disciplined, the better performance they have, the fewer injuries they're going to have, because guys falling into each other, guys getting blown back into the quarterback. We saw it with Nick Gates when Billy Price got absolutely destroyed off the snap and ends up falling on Nick Gates' lap on his leg and fracturing it in half. So you see these things, missed field goals, and, Andrew Thomas running down a defensive back. Like, don't do that. Pulls his hamstring. He's out for like 4 weeks. These are the things. Mistakes breed injury, and the Giants need to be more disciplined, and we saw much better results from that. And of course, Malik Neighbors looked like a freaking superstar yesterday. Acrobatic catches. He had that one drop in the first quarter, but shook it off after that. He was excellent. Got open. He had 33.3% of Daniel Jones's targets, guys. He is going to be our offense for the most part in a lot of respects. 33.3% target percentage from Daniel Jones. They were forcing him the ball. Now the next step of this is obviously getting more creative, and very basic vanilla scheme from Brian Dable right off the rip, but it was very clear they were using a lot of like 3-step, like get the ball out quick, really, really fast progressions, get the ball out. And, that's kind of what they're going to do with Daniel Jones. So there's going to be design deep balls, but we shouldn't expect DJ to like sit there in the pocket, get through all of his progressions, and then hit a deep ball downfield and buy time. Like, that's not his game. It never really has been. That's Josh Allen's game. That's the offense that we wished we had. But really, we got to get the ball out fast, design and create deception, and allow Daniel Jones to get the ball out to, through schematic advantages is what I would call it. So that's kind of how I think that they'll progress further. Wandale had one reception for 13 yards in this game. So, it wasn't really a big piece in this one, but I do think he's going to be a very nice impact piece. They didn't really utilize him that frequently, but, that Houston team is no joke. Like, they're contenders. They're Super Bowl contenders this year. So they're going to be really fun to watch, but the Giants got a taste of what that looks like. They got a taste of what a Super Bowl contending team really looks like. The Lions underperformed against us. Maybe they're fraudulent. We don't know just yet. I think they're going to be damn good anyway, but they kept a lot of guys out. Obviously, last week we didn't see any of their real starters for the most part. So I do think that if you are the Giants, you like what you saw from the Lions game, didn't see the starters, but against the Houston Texans starters, they taught us a lesson. CJ Stroud beat us up. Like, he was tearing us apart. You saw his composure in the pocket. And if you want to compare him to Daniel Jones, just look at the composure. CJ Stroud was backed up into his own secondary, waited, bought himself more time, kept his eyes downfield, and slung a ball over the middle for a huge gain. Daniel Jones backed up into his own end zone, keeps his eyes down, looks up, looks to the sideline, and throws a pick six. Like, you see the mental lapses, the mental differences here. It's apples to oranges, man. Like, and look, he didn't break his brain. He broke his ACL. He tore his ACL, didn't tear his brain. So, the mental issues do continue to compound for him. We've seen them over the last 5 years. I think this is just who he is. Like, this is just who Daniel Jones is. And I know there's probably people rushing the comments. Oh, like, it's rushing the rust. Guys, like, the rust, like it's year 6. It's year 6. Are we that down bad? Like we haven't seen good quarterback play in that long that we're shaking off the rust still. I'm over concerned, man. Like I'm done. Like it's the future for the Giants is 2025 and beyond for me. Like this team, we are using this season, and it's evident by the way that they've constructed this roster to develop young talent. Look at the secondary. There is no veterans there. All young talent. You know, offensive line, you have some key pieces. You have your big core pieces locked into 4 5-year deals. You know, this is not the season that we're going to win a Super Bowl. This is the season to develop and establish a foundation, get Malik Neighbors action, Wandale action, Hyatt action. Like, this is where we are right now. So this is very much still a rebuild, in my opinion. I don't know what the future of quarterback holds. If Daniel Jones has 30 touchdown passes and 7 rushing touchdowns, yeah, like maybe there's a world where we extend him even further. I just don't foresee that happening or even close to that happening. So, I mean, he's never reached 30 touchdowns in his career. Again, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole because it happens all the time, and I just get into my own head and it just keeps compounding. But I think most of you guys are kind of in agreement with me at this point. It's year 6. Like, these issues aren't just going to disappear overnight. Brian Daboll's designed an offense, back shoulder stuff, kind of concepts that try to hide a lot of his weaknesses, because his Josh Allen offense, the offense that we hired him to use, you can't use it with Daniel Jones. It's not possible. Josh Allen is capable of getting out of the pocket, buying time, slinging the rock downfield, and maximizing his plays. Daniel Jones is not that quarterback, right? He's got to have obvious reads. They need to be open. Otherwise, he's going to fail to get to his second and third progressions. He's going to struggle. He always has. That's always been a problem. It's the field vision, the ability to process. That's always been the problem here. So, hopefully an offensive line helps him. Hopefully he gets better. Hopefully Malik Neighbors offers him an asset he's never had before, which is a fact. I'm hoping for the best, but I'm expecting the worst. I think that's kind of where we are as Giants fans right now. So, sorry for the tangent, but I just had to get that off my chest. It's tough. It's tough as a Giants fan. We've been doing this for a long time, 5 years now on this channel. We've been talking about this, hoping for a solution at quarterback, and I think we're just praying for anything at this point, just upside wins. It's tough to kind of see the same things repeat over and over again. But we do have that star in Malik Neighbors. We do have a lot of great talent on both sides of the football, developing a lot of these young guys. I want to see Theo Johnson get a lot of action this year. I am concerned about the secondary. I don't know what they're going to do there. I am concerned about the linebacker position right now with all the injuries mounting. I am encouraged by the offensive line. I am excited to watch this defensive front with Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence. And I am excited about DT Elijah Chapman, who ran what looked like a fastest 40-yard dash I've ever seen from a guy of that size, to a 280-pound freaking freight train, chasing down a running back in the open field who's going full speed. Imagine running and then turning around to seeing a man that size just freaking full speed running at you and catching up to you, knowing that you're 60 pounds lighter than him. I mean, for real, that is just that type of effort and hustle wins you roster spots, my friends. That guy just solidified his spot on the roster. That is going to be teach tape in the freaking film room for every team, right? That you want to go win a roster spot? Chase down a running back at 70, 80 pounds heavier and freaking catch up and make that tackle. Elijah Chapman has been working with the ones. I think he's a starter. This is an undrafted player this year, guys. Unbelievable growth. Andre Patterson, great job finding this young talent. Sign him to the workout. They love this film, love this tape. And he's putting more of it, man. He's created a couple of holding opportunities. He got a hold in the first quarter against the starters, and then I believe it was Nick McLeod that forced it was Dane Belton with a penalty that offset. It would have been fourth down. That was unfortunate for the Giants. But Elijah Chapman has been extremely impressive. Very excited to continue to watch his growth and development as a rookie UDFA. We love that. We love finding players like this. It's about time the Giants did. But guys, I'm always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.
Perfect.